I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. Happy Fat Tuesday.
Hey, I came fully prepared. Have you seen my tum-tum?
710 KNUS in Denver, Colorado.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, where we cover issues from both sides, all sides, right, left, center, everybody jumping in to be a part of the discussion and the debate. Part of the news headline we'll get to here in just a second. Jesse Jackson, the Reverend, dead at 84 years old. What do you think of his legacy and his impact? Donald Trump weighing in. We'll get to that and more. Now is time for the weather.
Your KNUS forecast calls for a mild start to this Tuesday. Readings 40s, highs today, middle to maybe an upper 50. We will be looking at some strong gusty winds, especially foothills and locations on north. Temperatures tonight down to near 30, near 50 for a high Wednesday. A few rain and snow showers. Snow showers possible Wednesday night into Thursday and Friday. No real accumulations at all, even on grassy areas here across the metro area, but there will be accumulating snowfall up in the higher foothills and especially the mountains. Our high temperatures Thursday into Friday near 40, lows near 20. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
.710 KNUS here in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
By the way, we're going to be broadcasting down from The Answer in Colorado Springs tomorrow.
Yes,
so looking forward to that. We're going to have some great guests joining us from the Colorado Springs area as the Jeff and Bill Show expands to other cities, becomes syndicated. We love it. Most importantly, though, we want you to be a part of the conversation. There's no other show like this. All the other shows respond to some voicemail or text message, but it's not a live conversation. You're invited to be a part of it. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Post from the President of the United States, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, dead at 84. I knew him well. Long before becoming president, he was a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. He was very gracious, someone who truly loved people. Despite the fact that I am falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics on the radical left, Democrats all, it was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. I provided office space for him and his Rainbow Coalition for years in the Trump building at 40 Wall Street, responded to his request for help in getting criminal justice reform passed and signed when no other president would even try, single-handedly pushed and passed long-term funding for historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, which Jesse loved, but also, which other presidents would not do, responded to Jesse's support for opportunity zones, the single most successful economic development package yet approved for black businesses, men, women, and much more. Jesse was a force of nature like few others before him. He had much to do with the election without acknowledgement or credit of Barack Hussein Obama, a man who Jesse could not stand. He loved his family greatly, and to them, I send my deepest sympathies and condolences. Jesse will be missed. President Donald J. Trump. Bill, your reaction to President Trump's statement there?
There was a lot about him, but in something that was commemorating somebody else. Spent a lot of time talking about himself. That's interesting. That we a little bit on Jesse. The rest about how great Donald Trump is. Okay, but not unexpected.
I would love to get people's take on Jesse Jackson, the impact of the civil rights movement. Have we moved past slavery? Is racism continued to be pushed by these kind of race hustlers? That the world wants to move past it? But, these folks out there claiming institutional racism existing. Does it still exist? Be a part of the conversation. Jump in, 303-696-1971. What's your take on Jesse Jackson? Let's go to the phone lines. Marcus in Aurora. Good morning, Marcus. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning, guys. I never liked Jesse Jackson, even growing up as a kid. But I like Martin Luther King had the right ideal. But a lot of people don't realize during that situation, those times are different. Martin Luther King, when he got assassinated, he was in a motel room with not his wife. And another thing, he was a Republican, which, a lot of people don't understand that, but that was good. So, and people, if they want to understand something, follow the trace back what Democrats had voted for through the generations, and it amazes you. Where the Republican Party is totally different. And me, I'm unaffiliated.
Marcus, do you think we're still a racist nation?
No, I really don't believe that. Being in the military and in the combat zone, it doesn't matter. The race, the color, or anything. You depend on each other.
Marcus, Aurora, appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Marcus's line will be open if you want to jump in, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Johnny in Denver. Johnny, what are your thoughts on Jesse Jackson, and do you think America's still a racist nation?
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I want to address what you said, Bill. That was a lot about Donald Trump. If he doesn't get that word out, because I'm on social network all the time, and all I hear is the demon. He never works with anybody. He hates blacks, and so he has to point these things out because we have such a short memory, and we're so easily led like man. So it's like he has to keep reminding these people because they will forget. Now about Jesse Jackson, I think he was an opportunist. I think that Abernathy, I used to look at a lot of these documentaries and stuff, and Abernathy said that when King was shot, Jesse Jackson put some of the blood in the shirt because, with liberals and legacy media, it's always the visual and to pull out the emotion. So he wanted to make it seem, without saying, that he was right there and the blood splattered on him as he was shot, right? And then he had the Rainbow Coalition, and then somehow the organization, the communist organization, got in there and then transferred that over to the LGBTQ. And it's almost like he said, okay, where am I going to get my bread buttered most? Over here on the right or over on the left? So he had to make a decision to go to the left because that's where his bread was getting buttered the most. So, I mean, that's just looking at it from the documentaries and just seeing what was going on at that time, because I think I was like 8 years old around that time when he came into the prominence.
And Go ahead.
Go
Well, I was
ahead.
going to say he did run for president at one point, didn't he? This was all kind of.
Yeah.
I was like a toddler when this was all happening, but yeah, he ran for president in '84.
And Trump, he donated to his campaign. And I'm thinking, like, most racists that I know wouldn't give you crap. They want to see you go down. They don't want to fund you. And I'm thinking, like, how can you fund something, people that you're racist toward? And that's why it just doesn't make sense when I hear the people saying this stuff. And I got liberal friends online and my brothers and sisters, and it's like, how do you get this brainwash? And am I living in the twilight zone?
Now, Johnny, I want to ask you about the challenges facing the black community today. What do you attribute those to? Is it still racism that's holding people down?
I think that over-imagination, sometimes you can be your worst enemy, because if you don't look inside and stop blaming everybody around it, it's everybody else's fault. I have a daughter like that. She's my oldest daughter. Everybody else is their fault. And I'm thinking, like, shut up. Get off your butt and do. You can do life, or you can have life do you.
So, Johnny, I appreciate that, but that kind of goes back to my core point, is that we hear this a lot, that everybody should just be you, we should all come together, but that is often followed by a long list of statements about how the people I disagree with, it's their fault. I mean, that's the thing that just keeps breaking my brain, is that we continually say we need to come together. It's not anybody's fault. But remember, it's these people over here. They're the mostest at fault. And we can't forget that. That's kind of the point that I have. It's just like with, Donald Trump coming out with this statement about Jesse Jackson, a little bit on Jesse, but then a whole bunch of things about how much Jesse liked him and how good he was to Jesse. And I'm sorry, but if you are, that is not a eulogy. But if you are sitting in any sort of a memorial service and the person getting up there that is memorializing the person that is passed, and they talk more about themselves than they do about the person, that's a little untoward. That's a little outside of the boundaries. And that's kind of the question I've got. And I understand what you're saying about people not being racist, etc. Now, this is a difficult question for you, Johnny. This is difficult, and I know it's not really even fair, but we're playing on the Jeff and Bill show. Would it have been okay for Donald Trump to include with his statement about Jesse Jackson a little bit of a clip, maybe something someone had put together with AI, with Jesse Jackson's face on top of a monkey? Would that have been okay? To say that we're not a racist country, we don't have racist motivations.
Well, okay. As you know, the background of the story was this guy was trolling Trump and was saying all kinds of good things to put him in that position of saying, well, if we got something that we're going to retweet, this guy's been on our team, and the guy he walked, well, Trump and then the person who put up there walked right into that trap. So I can't really look at Trump as it being him, because if you're flattered by someone and they're trolling you and they're just waiting for that time to pounce,
but
they're gonna get you.
To be fair, Johnny, that also means that the person who decided to repost it didn't watch it all the way through nor examine whether or not. So that still is a personal decision, even if the person was trolling them. It is still incumbent upon that individual that push share. That it's incumbent on you to push share. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they should get like a pay raise, because it's just saying like washing half of it. Oh, it's okay. Maybe there's a pay raise that needs to be given so they can say wash the whole 60 minutes, because he's the president. I know that he has so many things on his plate that you have to delegate stuff, and you got to trust those people that you delegate stuff to watch the whole thing and not be lazy, as a lot of these probably staffers are a little bit lazy in what they do, and they say, let's just push it through. So it's, oh man, how do you and you guys are in a business that you guys got to be on top of it. I can't imagine doing a show like this 5 days a week and being lazy. And it's just that's a generation that's been raised that's just lazy, and they don't do the work all the way. So crap things are going to happen, whether that person should be fired or not. Crap things are going to happen. And I don't think it was Trump, because after watching him all these years and he's been putting all these videos with rappers and all that kind of stuff, he could have did that a long time ago. He could have did that with Snoop Dogg, put him on a ape. I mean, he's been around all the NAACP. They gave him awards. He could have did that a long time ago if that was his motivation.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was calling Trump racist until he decided to run for president as a Republican.
Well, actually,
and then all those accusations.
Yeah, it did occur. Central Park 5. After the Central Park 5, there was a whole lot of accusations about racism, and that's even before his TV show. So those accusations had been there for decades previous, and we can't discount all the lawsuits that he and his father got into based on rental and not renting to certain people. Yeah. So the accusations inside of New York of Donald Trump being racist have been there a long time before he ever ran for president.
Oh, wow. Jesse Jackson, happy to take his money. All right, Johnny, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Johnny.
Johnny in Denver, great call. His line's open, 303-696-1971. Let's talk Dan Caplis with Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who've been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win five straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. All right, lots of text messages. We're talking the passing of Jesse Jackson at the age of 84. Donald Trump saying that he was a good man, lots of personality, grit, street smarts, very gregarious. What do you think about his legacy? What do you think about this moment in American history with regards to race relations? Have we been able to move past a lot of the racism? Do we still struggle with institutional racism out there? Text messages coming in. Jason in Denver saying this country has been less racially divided among ethnicities, but it has instead chosen to foster hatred between people within the two major political parties. It's disheartening, Jason writes. Being checkered, right? Countries can't be racist. The people who live in them can. What our country used to be was one that benefited off the exploitation of workers. It is debatable how much that has changed over the years. Others, let's see. Trying to go through all these text messages here, and people debating with Bill. So if you want to, Bill jumps on the text messages and debate. So if you want to do that, debate on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. If you want to call in, give us a call at 303-696-1971. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. Mary from Wyoming is going to share stories of Jesse Jackson and her comments about our debate this morning. This is where you get to hear both sides, and she's part of it. We are The Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver, Colorado.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you get both sides of an issue. We're responding and reflecting on the life and legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson, passing away at 84, the President of the United States, saying he was a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. And then this gets into questions as well as about the civil rights movement. Have we as a country been able to move past racism? Is there still institutional racism? If you remember that institution at Boston University, run by Ibram Kendi, raised $55 million to confront institutional racism and then had to fold because it wasn't doing much. So what do you think of the whole movement in America to address racism as we reflect on the life and legacy of Jesse Jackson? Let's go to the phone lines. Mary in Wyoming. Always great to hear from Mary. Mary was a NAACP youth chapter president and was sending us some of the stories of what that time was like. So honored to have you on the show this morning, Mary.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. When you say, I guess I'm going to go in, is there a difference in back then? And I think that for your Colorado Springs audience, I think they need to know, not only am I black, I'm old. I'm 80 years old. I've lived through it was 100 years since the Civil War, when in 1964 I got involved in the youth chapter. And back in those days, it's a lot like what the activists, is what I was explaining, what the activists are like today. We were organized back in 1964. People have a tendency to forget during that 100 years there had been a lot of marches. NAACP came out of those marches, but we had been fighting for equal citizen rights since right after the Civil War, which was in 1865. So in 1964, was I say 1865? Yeah. So 1964, that one was nonviolent. Previous marches had been violent. This was a nonviolent, and it was an exact attempt to be able to change. What people have the tendency to forget is what it was like for blacks at that time. We were just off the plantation as far as whites were concerned. We were the field workers. Those are the jobs that we were entitled to. When we got off the plantation, they put us in government housing called projects. And why that was important is that we were redlined. We weren't allowed to buy property or have homes. That was the thing that we were looking for, equality. We wanted jobs that paid a decent living so we could also buy houses and have cars. And that was not happening. We were segregated in institutions. A lot of that your listening audience was not aware. We weren't allowed to go to public colleges, state colleges. That's why black colleges got invented. It was the community being able to educate our community. Also, the schools that we had, even where I was from in Washington State, they were segregated. And they had old books. They didn't have the same quality of education that the white students had. And they were, since we were in projects, they were able to keep us in the same school district. And like I said, and those were segregated. I was fortunate that I got out because I went to a Catholic school, all-white Catholic school. And I had a better education, which included 4 years of college, which brings me into what you're talking about, is the better. In other words, you see all these high-paid black people now, and you think, oh, we're all doing just wonderful. It doesn't address the people like the kind of jobs that I had to get. I needed the blue-collar jobs or those administrative jobs, etc., and we were excluded from having any of that. We didn't get to work in apartment buildings. The general population, that was our thing. We got to clean, if you were a janitor, you worked in that, or a housekeeper. And to show you how hard it was for us to get out of that, there was redlining. We were able to not stay, like willing. In other words, we had government housing and it was redlined. We couldn't buy private property. Now, we could go work in your homes, and guess what? There were covenants in your where you lived that said that we weren't allowed to be able to buy in your community. We could come in and we could work as a housekeeper, but we had to be out by dark. Those were the kind of rules. The railroad station in Seattle where I was and the coffee shops all had signs. I couldn't go in there and have a cup of coffee. And I had to drink at the Black Fountain, drinking fountain. So did things improve after 1964? I remember when we were doing those sit-ins where the youth chapter, like I said, we were the ones who did the sit-ins. We had rocks thrown at us. We would be spit upon. The police would arrest us. Yes, I went to jail a couple of times. I do understand. My experience was in the North, where Jesse Jackson did a lot in the South. We were equivalent. In other words, they did coordinate to make it a national effort as far as the civil rights. And I remember those white folks, when we were doing our sit-in, would shout at us, "What do you want? What do you want?" And we would say, "We want what you want. We want a house. We want a car. We want a good, decent paying job." And I remember the anger you would not believe from these folks. And then when at that point the government stepped in, how it changed this time with that march in 1964 was the government stepping in. They started requiring businesses, like for me, it was the Good Hands folk. They required that they had to integrate because it was all white. And for you women, it was all male. And so when that happened, remember, I didn't get to go to college. It was against the rules, but I did have a good education. I was I was the first black female recruited to work at that location, and it was what they called, you do the insurance, the casualty claims insurance. They had all of their casualty claims adjusters at that time were law school graduates, and I was brought into that environment to integrate. You had to, back in those days, again, people don't recognize, you were not considered an employee until you went to a hiring program that they didn't have to pay you for.
Now, Mary, got a question for you on this. So as you're going through this, where some of these barriers are being broken down, for you personally, just in your experience, what was the hardest part about coming into these office environments, these social environments, and trying to be accepted as who you are when, for decades, the other people with different melanin in their skin viewed you as other or not good enough? What was that like personally, trying to get into that work space and that social space, and to show them that you are an individual and you should be treated just like everybody else?
Hostile work environment.
Share the stories. What happened? What were you going through?
I was going to do the one on Allstate, and that's why I was mentioning these are casualty claims adjusters. These are the guys that would come out in the car. You got injured, and they'd come and take your statement and help you through, your whole thing all the way to your settlement. Okay, this was the division I was brought in. So I had to go through the training course, which was conductive, and so did all of them, the men. It was all male. And the training was in California, conducted by Stanford law professors. It was 8 weeks. You had to go through in other words, learn all about contract law. And because I had 4 years of Latin, it was the only thing that protected me. In other words, and you had to go through a class that they instructed, and every Friday you were tested. If you did not get 80% on that test, you packed your bags and went home. You did not have a job. and the rules did not change. For there were 4 of us women. I was the only black. The other women were 3 white, and that training was for their offices throughout the country. And so then all 4 of us women, we were smart. We got together. We studied together, passed the test, and we made it through. Allstate did not think that we would make it through.
Ooh.
And so they weren't prepared for us. We didn't have company cars ready for us like the men did. All of them had company cars ready. They didn't think that we were ready. So they brought us back to the regional office, and they put us on the telephones. And you know what? The guys were called casualty claims adjusters. We had gone through the same training and passed. And you know what we were called? Bodily injury telephone claims handlers. Bitch.
Ooh. Ouch. Now, I'm going to let that go based on because the acronym, I'm going to let it go and not bleep that out because I think it's important this morning. Because the context, you're not using it as a pejorative. I'm just outlining for the FCC when they review this later as to why we're not doing it. Mary's not using it as an insult or a pejorative, but it is an acronym. And I think we need to hear the word because of the weight that it carries. That they specifically designed that word to describe this group of women who were just now trying to fight for equal representation inside of the workforce. That's got to be hard because you've got to not only perform just as well as the men, but in many ways you have to follow a lot of social protocols that the men don't have to. The men are able to say things, do things that you don't at all. That if you even would give, a whiff of, that you would be axed immediately. They'd let you go.
Oh, and there was no social intertwine. They let it know they hated me. As far as they're concerned, I was taking their job. I had no business being there, and I was there for 5 years. Now, I worked, and I won't go to the details, but I'm going to say I kept winning all their awards. The guys constantly complained at me. They complained that I was given, easier, clients and all the rest of that. And I had to work with attorneys, just like they had to, et cetera. The difference is I went in with attorneys and I tell them, I have no power. I have no authorization. They've given me no money to be able to settle in these cases. So we would just have a cup of coffee and chat and talk. In fact, later on, after 5 years, I went and worked for them because I was that good.
Now, Mary, I want to get your sense on going through all that. People are texting in what you thought of the Obama presidency, where you think we are now with related to race relations in America.
Well, that's what it goes to. The jobs that I'm saying that have not changed in a lot of ways. At the same time, you had talked about the immigrants, the illegals on the construction sites. Do you remember in the construction sites that those were trade jobs, electricians, plumbers, you know what I mean, et cetera. And blacks were not allowed to be in the trades. So it was the same reason back in those days on how did you get police officers and firemen. Usually it was, remember, for the fire people, it was the Italians. For the police, it was the Irish, and they got in nepotism. It was the father who brought in the son, or the uncle, or the cousin, or whatever. The same thing with longshoremen. All those jobs we were excluded from. Does anybody else kind of remember those times at all?
Yeah, I feel like I've heard those stories from family members, particularly in the Midwest, like outside of Chicago, that had to deal with that. I mean, so it sounds like the frustration.
It hasn't changed a lot.
Right. It sounds like you feel like the illegal immigrants have robbed the black community of opportunity in this country. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, definitely. We're citizens. And then you get, 20 million at least? I think that we have been very generous with the Latino immigrant community. We had 3 amnesties, and each one of them was allowed to bring in 17 people. And those were all in competition for the same jobs. We The black community were the cooks, the short order cooks in all these fast food restaurants and et cetera. We did pick, the field and fruit. We just wanted a decent job. We were the janitors and the housekeepers. Those were jobs that those immigrants came in and took over because they would pay them. They would do them for cheaper, and nobody has thought about the damage that has done to our community. At the same time, we started having the drug problem, and a lot of the black men end up in jail. And now that they're even out, even to this day, they have to. You have somebody who has a record has to compete against somebody who's just illegal. Who gets the job?
Yeah,
Mary, Wyoming. The text message is very hot.
Oh,
always about you. They love hearing from you. They hope you're well. They're praying for you. And we're so grateful you took time to join us this morning. We really do appreciate you and love you very much.
Thank you, Mary. And I really appreciate the idea that you have brought out what the immigrant population did during that time in which the black population was trying to climb the ladder, how it was a way of hurting them from getting the ascension inside of our social stratosphere and economic stratosphere in ways that many people have discounted, and in some ways maybe was actually encouraged. I think that is something when we talk about how the black community hasn't achieved at the same rate of the white community. The best example that I've heard is the idea of playing Monopoly, but one person gets to go about 40 times around the board first before the other person's even allowed to play, is kind of the idea that happened in America. And what Mary's telling us is, well, once that one person finally got to play, a new person arrived in the game, and they were able to buy properties and other things at a lesser value. It's an inelegant analogy, but Mary, that is one of the things that I've always appreciated you bringing to the conversation. Thank you, and we're praying for you.
Thank you.
Mary from Wyoming joining us, reflecting on the life and legacy of Jesse Jackson, passing away at the age of 84, the President of the United States, saying he was a good man, lots of personality, grit, and street smarts, very gregarious, and someone who truly loved people. Do you agree? Do you agree with his contribution to the civil rights community? And what do you think of racism today? Is it being propped up by folks that want to continue to argue institutional racism without a lot of evidence that it's there, or is it still a problem? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's talk advanced hair restoration. Guys, if you're losing your hair and desire to have it back, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. Guys, it's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it the most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science, though. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Pauls, modern technology, and best of all, you get your own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver and has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online for yourself, 720-459-HAIR. AdvancedHair.com, 720-459-HAIR, or AdvancedHair.com. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show. We'll be right back.
710 KNUS in Denver, Colorado.
And AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, where you get both sides of an issue. We're reflecting on the life and legacy of Jesse Jackson, dead today at 84. Trump tweeting, "I knew him well long before becoming president. He was a good man. Lots of personality, grit, street smarts, very gregarious." At some point I'm going to get that pronunciation right. Gregarious. Someone who truly loved people. And then went on to say, "I send my deepest sympathies and condolences. Jesse will be missed." President Donald J. Trump. Lots of coverage about, and then there's a lot in between there about how Trump's been treated by the left, claiming that he's racist when he's not. Let's go to the phone lines. Larry in Denver. Larry, what do you think of Jesse Jackson? What do you think of the state of race relations in America today?
Yeah, good morning.
How you doing? Yeah, just on the part about the relations, and then I guess I want to say that what really I'm always challenged by when I hear people talk about black people and what black people need or what black people are doing or not doing. And they just put it all under one blanket. Everyone is an individual. I'm an individual. What I experience in my life is what I experience. And there's going to be other people who have experienced those things that have a different perspective. And that's where we get into, in my opinion, stereotype. And it goes for the same as I always say with individually with white people, and I have conversation, and I work hard at going and say, well, no, that was individual who did that to you, what you experienced, that was an individual. So there's a difference between individuals, what they do to you, and what's happened institutionally. But I try to stay that way, and that's why I try to stay from talks of these liberals and these conservatives, and that's the blame game. But for me to go current, I don't need to go no farther, and I'm highly alarmed, as my Jewish brothers and sisters would talk about being aware. I don't need to go no further than to go where Pete had said, and I said this before, he can go and he can fire generals, black men and women, and he can look at them and just say, you're DEI. And all of the things that these people have gone through and gone to classes and gone and done everything right, all it took was someone to come up and say, you're DEI. Now, also, on top of that, I just don't understand, how could it be not so you can look at a white person and say, this person is qualified, not knowing anything about them, equal across the board. It's about sight, look, race, and gender. So that one I can't get over. So that's outright, in my opinion, just acceptable things that what they're doing now, and that's a part of the project. And it's a big danger.
Larry, I've been having some of that conversation with people through text messages as well. The idea of DEI, and what I'm hearing from you is kind of what I was expressing is that DEI has become code for unqualified minority. That it is that we were going to say DEI because there's a minority in the job. We now look at it and go, oh, that person can't be qualified, and the major qualification when you see the person to determine whether or not they're a DEI hire is predominantly their race.
But I think the problem was we did have DEI, and you did have unqualified people being put into places simply based because on their race. We had an entire Supreme Court case on this issue.
Well, let me tell you this. Now, there's always going to be that, but I want to get back because sometimes I get pushed along too fast. Jeff, I just need to pause there. I asked you, I asked you a time ago, what do you think that man and that woman, who got let go, they go home and have the discussion. That black man who raised his family and what does he say to his kids? What does she say to her kids? Now, this is current. So wait a minute. Whoa, racism, is still there. But there's going to be people who say, because so Jeff, is that not racism in itself?
Is Hegseth firing people simply because of their race, do you think?
No, I'm asking you that. What do you think that is? Just from he got in there from sight alone, you're there because it's DEI. And he didn't do no tests. He didn't do anything to measure up. And then in my opinion, he's the DEI person because I don't think he can stand up to any standard of the people he let go. He has qualification none. Opposed to what they went through.
If Hegseth is firing people simply because of their race, that's racism. I haven't seen that, but if there are elements of DEI, which means people were advanced based upon their race, and we've seen that in places like universities. There's a whole Supreme Court case where Asian kids, for instance, were being held back because people of other races were being advanced. That is a form of racism that needs to be addressed.
But I can get that. That my only thing is that I'm going to always stick to that piece. He did not know these people from Jack. And then also when you go to that piece, and the only thing I'm going to jump to the other piece real quick is that when you were talking about, so do you think this was liberals want to do something to the white people? Do you know James Brown? Do you know a song that says "Say it loud and I'm black and I'm proud"?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Okay. So do you think he wanted to piss white people off? That was in the 60s.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Now, Jesse Jackson was in the 70s. This is in the 70s because I remember the gentleman before say that's before my time and I have nothing to do with it. But why would Jesse Jackson give a kind of whole thing and say, I am somebody? Why would he tell that and he would preach that to young black people? Why would he say that? That to say I am somebody, and he would just have people to repeat it over again. Why do you think he would be saying that to people?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not familiar with that, Larry.
Yeah, because he's saying that because people feel so downtrodden. And then no matter what they're saying about you, you can achieve, you can do these things, and you are somebody. So that gets me to my last. Again, I never seen no welfare. I never seen no help. Like I say, my house is paid for and everything. I got a granddaughter who now what I'm worried about because she's a mechanical engineer. So I'm worried about her. What's going to happen? So is she DEI? Because she got to worry about this, and so you achieve and go above, and now you say, does it go? So what about her job?
Larry, would you want a society where people are judged simply based upon their merit?
Oh, you know what? I argued that. That's all I want. Get out of my way with the laws you bring up, the laws that you make. I'll follow anything, but don't keep backtracking. I want that so bad. So if somebody needs to go, to jail for 1,000 years, and that's the law. But don't, when it come up, and don't call it white collar crime. No. You go to jail for 1,000 years too, but people can't do that. And then I asked people to say, a long time ago for me, I was in Fort Collins. We go, to rent a place. We get turned down. That was in the mid-70s. We get turned down. But I go, me and my wife didn't feel good about it. So we go to our white friends, and then we go and say, well, could you go see this thing? When white friends go over, the place was open.
Wow. So, Larry, I believe those stories are true, but I think what we're all advocating for here is just get to a place where merit matters the most. All right, Larry, appreciate the call. We'll continue. More to come. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. We'll be back in just a sec. This is The Jeff and Bill Show.